What if the hand that parted the Red Sea had never been raised? Imagine 2 million trapped, 600 chariots galloping, and Moses hesitates. What would you do when faith decides between life and death? What if Moses had hesitated before the Red Sea? Sinai Desert, bordering the Red Sea, approximately 1446 BC. 2 million Israelites camped on the brink of the impossible. Behind them, clouds of dust on the horizon reveal what everyone fears. Pharaoh's war chariots. 600 chosen chariots, each with archers and spearmen. The most powerful army in the known world, enraged, humiliated by the 10 plagues, coming to reclaim its enslaved workforce or massacre it as a warning. Ahead, the Red Sea, not a stream, not a river, a vast body of salt water, impassable, without bridges, without enough boats, without time to build anything. The waves crash against the shore like a mockery of hope. Children cry, women scream. Men confront Moses with desperate fury. Weren't there any graves in Egypt to take us out of there to die in this desert? And there is Moses, 80 years old, 40 years as a prince in the palace, 40 years as a fugitive shepherd in the desert, and now leader of an impossible exodus. 3 months ago, he was tending sheep. Now he is responsible for 2 million lives trapped between genocide and drowning. Panic is palpable. Mothers clutch babies to their chests. Elderly people who survived decades of slavery face violent death in freedom. Young people who dreamed of a promised land see only impassable water and approaching swords. The sound of horses grows louder. Dust on the horizon transforms into distinguishable shapes. There is nowhere to run. There is no way to fight. Newly freed slaves against the Egyptian military machine, massacred in minutes. Then God spoke to Moses. "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. And you, lift up your staff, stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, so that the Israelites may go through the sea on dry ground." Stop and think about the absurdity of this order. To stretch a pole across the sea, to expect millions of tons of water to simply part, to create a dry path where there is ocean, while an army approaches at a gallop, with 2 million hysterical people screaming that he brought them here to die. This is the moment. Moses holds the staff. He can extend it and trust that God will do the impossible, or he can hesitate, he can doubt. He can calculate the physical odds of the water parting at human command and conclude, impossible. He can look back at the approaching chariots, look ahead at the still sea, and think, maybe I heard wrong. Maybe God meant something else. Maybe I should negotiate surrender. Maybe I should... What if Moses had hesitated at that critical moment? What if the staff had remained lowered? What if the hand had never been extended? What if faith had wavered when it mattered most? In the true story, Moses did not hesitate. He stretched out his staff over the sea. God sent a strong east wind all night. The waters parted, forming walls on the right and on the left. The seabed became dry land. 2 million people crossed during the night and the following morning. When the Egyptians tried to follow, the waters returned and completely covered them. Not one of them remained. Israel was saved. The Exodus was complete. Freedom was guaranteed. But what if Moses had hesitated? What if that staff had never risen? What if he had waited for more confirmation, more signs, more certainty before acting? Every second of hesitation brings the cars closer. The Egyptian archers have a range of 200 meters. When they are at that distance, the first arrows begin to fly. Not aimed at soldiers. Israel barely has any soldiers, but at the mass of humanity trapped on the beach. Arrows fall on tents, on families, on children. Panic turns into a stampede. People run in all directions, but there are no directions. Some try to enter the sea and drown. Others try to run along the shore and are trampled by the very crowd. The Egyptian chariots are now upon them, not even needing to fight, just guiding through the mass of bodies, letting wheels and hulls do the work. It's not a battle, it's slaughter. Unarmed slaves against trained warriors. 2 million people against 600 cars. But 600 cars are enough when you have the advantage of mobility, weaponry, and training, and your victims are trapped with no way out. The Egyptians have 2 objectives: to recapture useful labor and to make an example of the rebels. Young and strong men are captured, chained, and immediately begin the march back to Egypt. Women and children too. Domestic slaves are worth their weight in gold. But the elderly, the sick, those who resist, the identified leaders, these are killed on the spot. Their bodies are left on the beach as a warning. Moses, if he hesitated, if he failed at that moment, the Egyptians seek him especially. This is the man who humbled Pharaoh, who brought plagues upon Egypt, who freed millions of slaves. His execution must be public, brutal, memorable, perhaps impaled, perhaps burned alive, perhaps dragged behind a chariot back to Egypt to die in the streets of the capital while crowds spit. Aaron, his brother and spokesman, dead. Miriam, his prophetess sister, captured or killed. The elders of Israel executed. Anyone who might gather future resistance, eliminated. The survivors march back to Egypt, not as a liberated people, but as defeated rebels. And when they arrive, the slavery they face is 10 times worse than before. Pharaoh vows that there will never be another Moses. Forced labor increases. Punishments multiply. Hope is systematically crushed. Note it, but the tragedy goes beyond that bloody beach. What dies there is not just 2 million bodies. It is God's redemptive plan for humanity, at least as we know it. Israel was not just another ancient people. It was the chosen people through whom God intended to reveal his nature, his laws, his salvation to the whole world. In you all the families of the earth shall be blessed, the promise made to Abraham 500 years earlier. Israel would be a light to the nations, a kingdom of priests, a holy people. But all of this depended on Israel existing as a free nation. The plan was liberation from Egypt, journey through the desert, revelation at Sinai, entry into the promised land, establishment of a society based on God's laws that would demonstrate his justice and love to surrounding nations. If Moses hesitates and Israel is recaptured, this plan collapses. The survivors return to Egypt not as witnesses to God's power, but as examples of his impotence. The message to the ancient world would be, the gods of Egypt are stronger than the God of Israel. The 10 plagues would be forgotten or explained as tricks, coincidences. But the recapture, that would be an undeniable historical fact. Without a free Israel, there is no Mount Sinai. There is no giving of the law. There are no 10 commandments to shape human ethics. There is no tabernacle to demonstrate how God desires to dwell with his people. There is no priestly system, no sacrifices prefiguring future atonement, no feasts celebrating divine liberation. Without Israel in the Promised Land, there is no united kingdom under David. There is no Davidic royal lineage. There is no promise of a Messiah coming from that lineage. There is no Bethlehem as the city of the Messiah. The entire messianic narrative depends on Israel existing as a sovereign nation in the land that God promised. Without the prophets of Israel, there is no Isaiah to prophesy about the suffering servant. There is no Jeremiah to speak of a new covenant. There is no Ezekiel for visions of restoration. There is no Hosea to illustrate God's unwavering love. The prophetic voice that shaped human understanding of God silenced before it even began. Without the writings of Israel, there are no Psalms. Humanity loses the richest language of worship, lament, and praise. There are no proverbs for practical wisdom. There are no history books showing how God works through generations. The Bible as we know it, 2/3 of it comes from free Israel. Without that Israel, there are no scriptures. And Jesus, the promised Messiah, would he have been born in Bethlehem of Judah if Judah didn't exist as a region in Israel? Would he have come through the lineage of David if that lineage had been exterminated on the shores of the Red Sea? The plan of salvation through the Jewish Messiah depends on the existence of a Jewish people. A moment of hesitation, a stick left unraised, and the entire story of redemption potentially derails. But Moses did not hesitate, and therein lies a truth that spans millennia. The most important moments in history depend on ordinary people choosing radical faith when everything seems impossible. Consider what Moses faced. Physical evidence, water doesn't part at human command. Social pressure, 2 million people shouting that he was crazy. Immediate threat, war chariots approaching, and catastrophic consequences of being wrong, total genocide. Every rational instinct screamed, "Don't do it, it's impossible. You'll kill everyone." But Moses had something stronger than logic. He had a word from God. Stretch out your hand over the sea. And he had to choose between trusting his eyes or trusting that word. Between calculating probabilities or obeying divine commands. Between safe hesitation or risky faith. He chose faith. He raised the staff. He reached out his hand. And the impossible happened. The waters parted. Not gradually, dramatically, miraculously, undeniably. Walls of water to the left and to the right. Dry ground where there had been ocean. A path through the impossible. And here is the devastatingly beautiful lesson. God did not part the sea before Moses raised his staff. He gave no preview of the division. He did not perform a small test first. He required Moses to act in faith before seeing the result. Because true faith does not wait to see in order to believe. It believes and then sees. But note something crucial. Faith is not passive. Moses didn't just pray, "God, if you will, divide the sea." He had to act, raise his staff, extend his hand. Take the first step of obedience before seeing the waters move. Faith without action is admiration. Faith with action is transformation. And when he acted, God acted. Not half a second before, at the exact moment. Divine synchronization that requires human courage. A partnership between heaven and earth, where God does the impossible, but waits for us to take the step of faith first. Think about the next few hours. 2 million people crossing the ocean floor. Imagine being the first person to set foot on that dry ground with walls of water on both sides. Imagine being a mother carrying a baby, trusting that those liquid walls will not collapse. Imagine being an elder who has lived 80 years and never seen anything like it. Every step is an act of faith. Every meter is a testament that the God who began the miracle will sustain it until the end. And when the last Israelite sets foot on dry land on the other side, when the pursuing Egyptians enter the divided sea, when Moses stretches out his hand again and the waters return covering horses, chariots and warriors, at that moment something crystallizes in Israel's DNA. Our God is the God of the impossible. And when he commands you to act, do not hesitate. The story would be different if Moses might have hesitated, but he did not hesitate. With hands probably trembling, with a heart surely racing, with doubts perhaps screaming in his mind, he raised the staff, and the sea parted, and a nation was saved, and the story of redemption continued its course. Each generation afterward, when Israel faced the impossible, they remembered, "Our fathers crossed the sea on dry land. Nothing is impossible for our God." And when Jesus would walk on water, when he would raise the dead, when he would conquer death, people had the mental capacity to believe because Moses did not hesitate on that shore 1,500 years ago. Are you on your Red Sea beach? That moment when God is asking you to do something that seems impossible, where all logic says, "Don't do it," but something deep inside whispers, "Trust and act." Where hesitation seems prudent but could be fatal. Maybe it's confronting that injustice at work when everyone says, "Don't get involved." Maybe it's forgiving when everything inside you screams revenge. Maybe it's taking that step of financial obedience when bills are piling up. Maybe it's entering that ministry when you feel totally inadequate. Maybe it's having that difficult conversation when your relationship depends on it. The pattern is always the same. God doesn't move the sea before you raise your staff. He doesn't open the way before you take the step of faith. He doesn't remove the obstacle before you trust that he will. Because he doesn't want impressed spectators, he wants engaged partners. He doesn't want an audience admiring miracles, he wants participants experiencing them. Then raise your staff. It might be trembling in your hand, that's okay. You might not see how it will work, you don't need to. Everyone around you might shout that you're crazy. Moses heard the same thing. Failure might seem more likely than success. Water doesn't naturally divide anyway. But when God says, "Stretch out your hand over the impossible," it's not time to hesitate. It's time to obey. It's time to act. It's time to discover that the God who parted the Red Sea still parts impossibilities today. He still makes paths where there are no paths. He still saves when salvation seems impossible. He still acts when you act in faith. What is the difference between genocide on a beach and crossing on dry land? One man chose not to hesitate. One man raised a staff. One man believed that God would do the impossible if he took that step of faith. Don't let your story be what if. Make your story what if. When I raised my staff, when I reached out my hand, when I acted in faith, when I saw the impossible happen. Thank you for watching. The story would be different if. Moses challenges us. What Red Sea is before you today? What step of faith is God asking of you? Share this video with someone who needs to raise their staff. And in the comments, what biblical moment of radical faith would you like us to explore next?